Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I just thought I would talk about something with you guys for a little while. This is just opinion. I'm going to load a little 9mm, and I'm going to give something that's strictly opinion on this, and it's okay. I'm just kind of voicing my thoughts, and if you disagree with these, that's fine, man. Buy what you guys want to buy. I'm just happy that more educated people are out there buying AR-15s and using them. If you happen to have different ideas on caliber selection than me, then so what? I'm just glad to have patriots out there with ARs. So, you know, your caliber selection is fine by me. Do what you want to do, brother. But when I was thinking about the fact of the reason that most people use the 300 Blackout, it seems to me that everything that they use it for, the 458 SOCOM does it better. It's just all around superior for it. And the reason I say that is pretty much multifold in nature. The reason the 300 Blackout was invented is that they wanted to be able to, or people, I say they, I mean people in general who shoot ARs, wanted to shoot a bigger, heavier bullet out of an AR-15. Now that's led to a couple of very popular Wildcats, 6.8 Grendel, 6.8 SPC. These have been very successful as far as other calibers in the AR platform. And they have their own little cult followings. They have their own fan base. I mean, the 6.8 SPC has a very, very loyal fan base out there. And it's actually, honestly, it's a viable big game hunting round. People have taken down elks with them out at 200, 250 yards. Very successfully, humane, clean kills. You can't take that away from the 6.8. I still like 5.56 better. I like it a lot more. But you can't take that away from the 6.8. It is still going to be a better hunting cartridge than the 5.56 could ever be on four-legged game. Maybe not two-legged game, but definitely four-legged. But people wanted more than that. And the thing is, those have to use different magazines. The idea with the 300 Blackout was if you use a 5.56 cartridge, we can use the same magazines. Use the same upper, same lower, same magazines. That's a big deal. That's definitely something in its advantage. And it's like, well, let's just use a standardized caliber. That'll give us better bullet selection. Use a 308 bullet, 7.62 bullet. 308 is one of the most popular hunting cartridges out there, and there's so many 30 caliber cartridges that use the same diameter bullet. There's been an enormous number of tactical, self-defense, hunting, and match bullets out there. It gives you an enormous bullet selection. So that's what they did. They put a 308 bullet on a 5.56 NATO cartridge. Now, one of the downsides of that, you're already using very little gunpowder to push a 308 bullet. All right. This is a very small cartridge to be pushing it with. The cartridge gets cut shorter for it to fit because they need to be magazine length, and that also incidentally has led to a few gun blowups because a 300 Blackout will chamber in a 5.56 barrel. All right, and people do need to be aware of that. Some people say no, it can't. Yeah, it does, because it is the same length. The cartridge has been trimmed back so that the longer 308 bullets can fit. That means just the tip of it has to go in the barrel. All right, just the tip goes in the barrel. The whole thing doesn't have to chamber, and the whole thing will chamber and seat and fire, which is usually catastrophic because that 30 caliber bullet doesn't push down a 22 caliber barrel very well. It tends to go boom, and it's not pretty. So just be aware of that, by the way. But you have to cut the cartridge back. So that means you not only have a 5.56 cartridge, but you have less gunpowder because the cartridge has been cut shorter, and you have a longer bullet seated deeper in there. All right, so especially the big heavy bullets, they get seated a little on the deep side, the subsonics. It does limit case capacity. Can be a problem. It's not as much of a problem as you would think because, quite frankly, that also lets you run a faster burning powder. The 5.56 cartridge and AR platform is a very high pressure platform. It will take more pressure than, say, a lot of 223 rifles will. All right, it's good at taking pressure. You can run a fast powder with it. It's not as big of a detriment as you would think to trim it back. Honestly, the bigger diameter bullet and using faster powders actually do bridge the gap on the being trimmed back, but you do have less case capacity. And that's something you got to consider. You got less gunpowder than a 5.56. That is definitely a disadvantage. Now, a lot of people like to use it for close quarters as a suppressed weapon. And I think that's a bad application of it, particularly in a subsonic. A lot of people will be like, what? Why? Because it's inferior to a handgun. You know, some people want to talk about a 458 SOCOM over penetrating. Subsonic 300 Blackout is going to be a guaranteed over penetration. All right, the human body is almost guaranteed to not stop that round. Unless you're dealing with a 350-pound obese guy wearing 6 layers of clothing, that bullet is not being stopped by a human torso. Okay, it is going to go through it. And the reason I say that, look at the penetration numbers for comparable handgun rounds that actually expand. All right, if you take a 45 ACP round, moving the same weight, same velocity that your subsonic 300 Blackout is, and you shoot someone with it with a full metal jacket round, is it going to go through them? Yeah, but it's a bigger diameter. It gets less penetration. Those long 300 Blackout subsonic bullets, you're taking a 200 plus grain bullet that's 30 calibers in diameter. All right, a 45 usually runs similar bullet weights, 45 caliber in diameter. Think about that from a surface area. That bullet is twice as long. You have twice as much sectional density. That increases penetration. 300 Blackout subsonic rounds do not expand. None of those rifle bullets will expand in gel when shot subsonic. They will not do it. So you have a bullet that has way more penetration and over penetration than a 45 full metal jacket does. Undisputable. It will penetrate considerably deeper than a 45 FMJ. How many people use 45 FMJ for home defense? Not a lot of people. Why? Because they're scared of over penetration. They usually use hollow points. This round will have considerably more penetration than a 45 full metal jacket. It will over penetrate. It will go through your attacker and it will go through the wall behind him. Pretty much guaranteed to happen. 9 out of 10 times. All right? So factor that in there. So why would you use that instead of a handgun caliber AR? If you want a subsonic round, why don't you use a handgun round that starts with a bigger diameter that is designed to expand at those velocities? Are you guys telling me that a 40 Smith & Wesson or a 45 ACP handgun round, like let's say a Federal HST or a Spear Gold Dot out of one of those suckers coming out of a 16-inch rifle barrel, you're telling me that's not going to be a superior man stopper to a non-expanding 30 caliber bullet that's going to zip through them? You're going to get a lot bigger hole. You're going to get a lot bigger cavity. Again, I promise you a 230 grain 45 ACP Spear Gold Dot or Federal HST is going to do more damage to a home invader, considerably more damage than a 300 Blackout subsonic round will. Moving the same velocity with similar bullet weights, because it's going to get good penetration but not excessive penetration, and it's going to expand. That bullet's going to end up being 70 or 80 caliber, 6-8 inches inside that person's chest. All right, that is not even comparable. So handgun caliber carbines are better for that role than the 300 Blackout. Not even arguable. Better at barrier penetration, but most people aren't worried about barrier penetration when defending their home. All they have to punch through is sheetrock and couches. And again, a good 45 will do that just fine. So even a 9mm will do that just fine. That's not a problem. 9mm carbine will do that better. Do it just fine. 9mm handgun will do it just fine. It's not an issue. Compare that with, say, the 300 or 458 SOCOM. It's going to make a lot bigger hole too. Now, it's going to have over penetration in that case also, subsonic. But people aren't necessarily doing that. A lot of people are switched over because they realize the subsonic 300 Blackout sucks. Ballistically, it sucks. So a lot of them are running supersonics because they're sitting here saying, well, it's supersonic, but it's still got a suppressor on it. Well, what I would say to guys, you really think those 300 Blackouts and doing that are really any better than a 5.56 round? How about Sierra Match King? How about a Tip Match King? How about any of those, the heavy ones? Say a 77 grain open tip match round from a 5.56. You're telling me that that isn't just as devastating in close quarters as a 300 Blackout round? I think it is. But you paid for a more expensive bullet. You know, I don't think you're going to see much difference with a can on them. When they are supersonic, I doubt you're going to see much difference. But I tell you what we'll do differently. What about a 458 SOCOM running a lightweight polymer tip round? How about some of those? How about some of those lightweight polymer tip 458 SOCOMs? How do you think that's going to stack up compared to those others on a shot-to-shot basis? It is going to outperform the 300 Blackout by an enormous margin. And you know what? It's not going to be a massive overpenetrator with a lightweight polymer tipped round. And some of those 250 grain ones aren't moving that fast, honestly. I think you're going to end up getting a lower decibel off of it than you're going to get out of the 300 Blackout rounds. I think it's going to be lower. Some of those 120, 130 grain, 300 Blackout rounds, I think the 458 is going to be better. I think you're going to get lower uncorking pressures and a little less velocity. You're going to start with a much bigger diameter bullet, and I think it's going to expand just fine. Again, the polymer tipped rounds, it'll work perfectly. You're going to get probably twice the size of hole. Now, you're going to have less rounds, but honestly, you can have extra magazines. You got 10 plus 1 out of a 30 round magazine, 10 plus 1 for your 458 SOCOM. There aren't many home invaders who are going to survive you coming at them with a carbine loaded with 458 SOCOM with 11 rounds in it, shooting them. It's a lot easier to hit with a carbine in close quarters than it is with a rifle. They are simply more accurate due to the longer sight radius, ease of wielding, ease of using them. They are simply more accurate than a handgun. Your hit rate's going to be a lot higher than people think of in these handgun fights when you're talking about a rifle in close quarters. Carbine styles rifles have a fantastic hit rate if you have some training on them in close quarters. It's a higher percentage of hits than a handgun is by a pretty hefty amount. So you're going to get a lot of hits. You're not going to be missing most of your shots. Again, not with a rifle in close quarters. Not utilized correctly with a little bit of basic training. That's a devastating amount of firepower. 11 rounds of that is a lot. And it's not like you won't have extra magazines. So it really beats it hands down. For a home defense weapon, if you want a suppressed home defense weapon, if you're going to go supersonic, why wouldn't you just run the 458 SOCOM instead of the 300 Blackout? It's a devastating caliber in comparison. It's easily twice the power. Easily. So if you're going to run a bigger cartridge, or you want to run a bigger diameter bullet, just go ahead and go all out. The beauty of it, you can use the same uppers and lowers. Yeah, you have to have a different bolt, but you have to buy a bolt anyways for your 300 Blackout. You have to buy a barrel anyways for your 300 Blackout. You've got to buy a gas system and everything. You've already got to buy that stuff. So you're just buying a slightly different one. And you know what? They're in the same price range. 458 SOCOM ARs cost the same amount of money to build as 300 Blackout ARs. They're not any more expensive to put together. Right? The ammo is more expensive, but the rifles aren't. You use the same magazines, just like you do with the standard AR. You can pick up cheap mags anywhere. Magazines are not expensive. They're easy to get. It's way more powerful there. So why not do that instead? Now, people argue about cost, but the 300 Blackout is an expensive round to shoot. It is way more expensive than a 5.56. Yeah, the 458 is going to be a little more, but it's mainly just brass. And people who are going to shoot these oddballs much are going to hand load anyways. They're going to hand load. So the brass costs more, but you're going to reuse the brass quite a few times. And most people aren't going to put 5,000 rounds through their 300 Blackout or their 458 SOCOM. Anyone who wants to do a lot of plinking, they're going to go get a 5.56 for that. But when you start hand loading, the brass is the only real difference. And 300 Blackout brass can be expensive sometimes because it's an oddball caliber. So it's expensive also. It still costs more than your 5.56 does for the brass. As far as bullets go, unless you're running hard cast lead, which is what most people end up shooting out of the 458, the cast lead for the 458 costs less sometimes than good rounds do to plink with for the 30 caliber bullet. Now you can get cheap bullets that are the same price. Yeah, if you just want to shoot cheap FMJs, you can get those about the same price you can get cast lead in 458. But the only real price difference you're going to see is mostly going to be on the price of the brass and the fact that you're using more gunpowder. But if cost is a major concern for you for plinking, you're going to have a backup 5.56 to do your plinking with anyways. Nobody likes to go out and shoot 1,000 rounds of 300 Blackout per month. No one I know is doing that. A lot of people do that with 5.56. So that's less of an issue than you would think, but that's your only real downside so far. That's the only downside, the cost of the ammo and a lower capacity. But again, how many rounds do you really need? You got changeable magazines. And you have to remember, you have a round that is so much more devastating per shot. So in a lot of ways, it bridges the gap there. That's kind of like saying the 10 millimeter is worthless because, you know, your magazine holds less of them than it does 9 millimeter. It's a more devastating round, but the difference is larger here. The 458 SOCOM is easily twice the power of the 300 Blackout. Hunting, you run into the same thing. Some people do want to do some hunting with their 300 Blackout, but you know what? Anything bigger than deer size or hog size, you're getting into the area where people are going to question the ethics. And I'm not saying people don't get clean elk kills or clean bear kills or moose kills with the 300 Blackout. It has been done. But can anybody out there honestly tell me, any hunter honestly tell me that would really be their preferred caliber? You really want to hunt a big animal, a 400 plus pound animal with a 300 Blackout? You really think that's the most humane choice you could make? You have very, very little margin of error there. Your shot has to be perfect. Your ammo selection needs to be perfect. Because you're getting into a gray area on ethics there. And a lot of hunters would be really skeptical of that. A lot of hunters are going to be like, look guys, that's really the wrong caliber choice. Now, you're going to see any hunter say the same thing about the 458 SOCOM running a 400 grain hard cast lead bullet. Any of them are going to complain if you say, hey, I'm going to go hunt a moose or an elk with it? None. They'll be like, oh, that's a perfectly acceptable choice. See the difference there? It is a vastly superior hunting round. And how about for a white-tailed deer? I think they're going to be about the same. Yeah, you are putting a bigger hole through it, but it's still slow-moving and heavy. You're not going to tear up a lot of meat. You're going to get complete penetration. Same thing, a hard cast lead 400 grain bullet from that, it's going to punch clean through. It's not going to deviate. It's going to punch clean through the vitals. You're not going to have any problems at all. Yeah, it's not going to expand in that deer, but it'll be fine for medium game too. It's an easy, clean, humane kill, ethical kill that isn't going to tear up that much meat. Again, not with proper shot placement. It's a superior hunting round all the way around. So ultimately, what I'm saying here is that, guys, I just don't see how the 300 Blackout is useful when compared to the 458 SOCOM. The only thing it might be better for is cheaper plinking, but there are way cheaper plinking rounds for the AR. Again, 5.56, 223. That's your best choice for anyone on a budget for plinking. It's better for subsonic, but it sucks for subsonic. It actually sucks. A pistol caliber carbine crushes the 300 Blackout rifle round for home defense as a subsonic suppressed round. They crush them. A 45, 40 S&W, they destroy it. Not even in the same ballpark. So really, I guess the thing I'm saying is I just don't really see a lot of use for the 300 Blackout. I love the concept. It's a fantastic concept. But again, everything that it wants to do, either a pistol caliber carbine does better or the 458 does better. It's just not that great of a round compared to the other things that we have available out there. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.